You're a legend known worldwide, James Bond 007. You've defeated countless masters of evil, but you've never done it alone. You have allies, equipment, MI6. It takes more than one hero to thwart evil, and you get to explore all sorts of these heroes and movies in legendary James Bond 007, which was designed by Ben Chaikovsky and Danny Mandela and published by Upper Deck Entertainment, who helped sponsor this video. Hi everybody, my name is Nick Murphy of the Brothers Murph, and we are here with BoardGameGeek. Well, I just spotted a golden gun and a golden eye, so why don't we get this game down to the table and learn how to play legendary James Bond 007. Legendary James Bond 007 is a cooperative deck building game where players will be working together to try to defeat a mastermind and villains from one of 4 Bond movies. Each mastermind will have an evil scheme to try and thwart Bond and his allies, and the mastermind will have to be successfully fought 4 times for the players to win. But before we get into all that, let's go over the setup. As I stated, in legendary James Bond 007, you can play one of 4 classic Bond movies: Goldfinger, The Man with the Golden Gun, GoldenEye, and Casino Royale. You will choose one of these movies to play. Note that you do not necessarily have to do this. You are allowed to mix and match as you wish with these rules. You must include one and only one Bond hero. You must choose the villain group that your chosen mastermind always leads, and if the scheme you choose always leads a specific mission, you must use that as well. But we're going to teach this game with a specific movie, and I'm choosing GoldenEye as that was the Bond movie of my childhood. Place the neoprene game mat in the middle of the table. Place the stack of wounds and gadgets in their respective spaces. Place the 12 Miss Moneypenny allies in their space next to Q Branch here. Place a counter of your choosing on the 0 space of the danger level track. Choose a mastermind. We are playing the GoldenEye movie, so we'll be choosing Alec Trevelyan. Each mastermind will have a main card with all of their information and 4 tactics cards. Shuffle the 4 tactic cards and place them face down here with the mastermind on top. Now we're going to set up the villain deck. The villain deck will have a variable amount of cards depending on the player count. We're going to set up the game for a 2-player game, so we will need 1 mission group, 1 villain group, 1 henchman group, and 2 gadgets. Each mastermind always leads a specific villain group, in this case the GoldenEye villain group. Choose a scheme of your choice. As stated, certain schemes will require you to use specific mission groups. In this case, Worldwide Financial Meltdown has its own mission group that you will need to use with this scheme. Place the chosen scheme card in its space on the game board here. The scheme card will tell you how many scheme twists to put in the villain deck, in this case 5 scheme twists. We now need to choose a henchman group, and we are going to be choosing Russian soldiers. Add 2 gadgets and 5 Master Strike cards as well. Now we are ready to assemble the villain deck. The villains, henchmen, and missions all have either Deck A, Deck B, or Deck C written on the bottom of their cards. You will sort all of the A, B, and C cards into their respective piles. You will add 1 Master Strike and 1 Scheme Twist to Deck A, and 2 Master Strikes and 2 Scheme Twists into both Deck B and Deck C. In a 2-player game, you will add 1 gadget to Deck A and 1 will go to Deck B. Find the Inevitable Mission card and place it face down on the villain deck space here. Then shuffle Deck C and put it on top of this card face down. Shuffle Deck B and put it on top of Deck C, and then finally shuffle Deck A and put it on top of Deck B. Now we're ready to assemble the heroes side. Each player will gain 8 007 basic starter cards and 4 00 Agent basic starter cards. Each player will also gain 1 random special starting card. You will pick 5 different heroes to play. You must play with 1 and only 1 Bond hero, and then you may choose the other 4 as you wish. We're playing the GoldenEye movie, so we're going to choose James Bond GoldenEye, Allies GoldenEye, MI6 GoldenEye, Equipment GoldenEye, and Natalia Simonova. Shuffle all these cards together and place the hero deck face down on its space here. Finally, draw 5 cards to fill Q Branch, choose a first player, and that concludes the setup. Before you begin playing, make sure to carefully read over the scheme card and the mastermind card, as these change up the game quite a bit and may have ongoing rules and abilities. For instance, we're playing with Alec Trevelyan, and in this game, gadgets make the villains and masterminds stronger. Each player will draw 6 cards off their deck, then the active player will draw the top card of the villain deck. Let's quickly go over what might be on some of these villain and mission cards. Villain and henchman cards have a red border and will require you to fight them to get rid of them. Each card will have some kind of special ability which will trigger at different times. If a card has ambush, this will happen the moment they get put on assignment before the player may play cards. Fight abilities will happen and resolve once a player decides to fight that card. Escape will happen if a card escapes the on assignment row. Missions have a blue border and may take either attack or recruit to overcome them. If you successfully overcome them, you will do the succeed ability. If the mission escapes on assignment, the failure ability will happen. These abilities I just described are the main keywords you will come across, but in Legendary there are a number of different abilities and keywords throughout the set. So we're going to do the main teach, and then at the end we'll come back through and go through all the different keywords and what they do. Cool? Cool. Cards from the villain deck will go on assignment and will be placed in this row here. If there is another card there, it will get pushed over to the left to make room. If on assignment is full and a new card would need to get put down, the card on the very left will escape. When a card escapes, the active player will KO a card from Q branch that's worth 6 or less. The card's value is in the corner here. Note that KOing means trashing it out of the game. If the card that escaped also has a gadget with it, each player will also have to discard a card from their hand. If the card has an escape or failure ability, this will trigger when the card gets pushed out of on assignment. Note that some masterminds have escape/failure abilities that will trigger whenever any card escapes as well. If a mission escapes and is therefore failed, players will increase the danger level by the amount shown here on the card. The players will lose immediately if the danger reaches the level stated on the scheme card. If the card drawn off the villain deck is a gadget, it will get captured by the closest card in the row. If the row is empty, it is captured by the mastermind. Normally gadgets don't do anything on their own, but they can be important for certain schemes and masterminds. If the card drawn is a Master Strike, the Mastermind comes down and puts a beat down on the players. You will KO the Master Strike card and then follow the instructions on the Mastermind's card next to Master Strike. In Alec Trevelyan's case, each villain on assignment will gain a gadget, thus making them harder to fight per the Mastermind's special rules. The last kind of card that can be drawn is a Scheme Twist. When this card is drawn, you will trigger the Scheme card. Each scheme will act differently when a Scheme Twist is drawn, but it's always bad. In the Scheme Worldwide Financial Meltdown, the Scheme Twist cards are EMPs and will be placed next to the Mastermind, and you can't fight the Mastermind, which is how you win the game, if there are any EMPs next to them. Okay, that is all the cards in the villain deck. You'll remember that the villain deck is split into A, B, and C. C cards are more difficult than A cards, so the deck gets more difficult as you go through it. It gets stronger as you get stronger. At the beginning of your turn, you will draw the top card of the villain deck and resolve it if needed. Now you get to play your cards. You will have a hand of 6 cards and you may play them in any order you want. You start the game with a basic deck. Your 8 007 cards simply give you 1 recruit, and your 4 00 agent cards give you 1 attack. Your special starter may do a number of different things. Note that your starter cards are still considered heroes and their value is 0. When you play a card, you will activate the text on the bottom half of the card if it has any, like the standard field issue, which allows you to immediately draw a card. Once you've done all your card's abilities, you will count up your total recruit and your total attack. You will find that on the cards in the bottom left here. Though note that this may be changed through things like class abilities, which we'll talk about in a second. In this hand, I have 5 recruit and 2 attack. You will use recruit to gain heroes from Q branch or to overcome missions that require it. To gain a hero, you will pay the cost in the bottom right in recruit. You may gain any of the 5 cards in Q branch or a Miss Moneypenny card, and when you acquire a card, it will go into your discard pile. The vacant spot in Q branch is immediately refilled. And if you have enough recruit, you may gain multiple heroes, and all players may gain any hero they want. You do not have to stick to, say, just James Bond or just equipment. You can mix and match as you like. Each hero has multiple cards of different values and strengths, but each hero has 1 high value card, which is always incredibly powerful. You may use your attack to attack a villain or a mission on assignment or the Mastermind. Remember that to win the game, you must defeat the Mastermind 4 times. How much attack a card takes to overcome is in the bottom right. And this must all be dealt on the active player's turn to defeat the card. You cannot weaken a card for another teammate to finish off on a later turn. If you're fighting a villain and it has a fight ability, that will happen as you fight it and before you compare values. For example, when you fight the Russian soldiers, you will look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a hero, you may KO it. You will take on missions in the same way, except missions may require recruit instead of attack. When you defeat a mission, if it has a success ability, you will do this now. Lastly, you may fight the Mastermind. Their strength is in the bottom right like other villains. When you attack them, you will take the top face-down tactic from their deck and resolve it. These are usually quite bad. Note that some masterminds will cause you to gain extra cards. These are specific to them. In this case, all players will gain a 006 extra card, which is now part of their deck. Whenever you defeat a card from the villain deck or a mastermind tactic, it will go into your victory pile. Though Legendary is cooperative, you may play competitively if you like. You will still work together to win, but at the end of the game, you will count up all of your victory points, which are shown here on each card, and the player with the most victory points is the official winner. Now, your hero cards mostly attack and recruit, but you may have noticed that some of the cards are different colors. The different colors are classes, and these will trigger special powers on cards. Green is strength, yellow is instincts, red is covert, gray is tech, and blue is ranged. Your starter cards have no class. Some cards will have a special power that will be triggered if the proper card was played before it. What will need to get played before is shown in the text on the card. For example, if I wanted to trigger this ranged ability on this Bond card, I would need to play a ranged hero before this one. So if I played this M card and then this Bond card, the ranged ability would trigger on the Bond card. And some abilities are powerful and require 2 cards to be played before them. Note that for these abilities to trigger, a card must be played before the card you want to trigger. So if I had 2 grenade pen cards and I played them back to back, I would only get to trigger the strength ability of the second card, not both, because no green card was played before the first one. Note that you may only do the special ability on a card once. If I played 3 green cards and then my grenade pen, I would still only get the bonus 1 time. Once you have played all your cards, they will go into your discard pile. You will then draw 6 new cards. If your deck is empty, shuffle your discard pile to create a new deck and continue drawing. Play passes to the player on your left. They will draw a new card from the villain deck, resolve it, and then take their turn. Play will continue until the players win or evil triumphs. The game can end in a number of ways. The players will win if they successfully defeat the mastermind 4 times. They will lose if the danger level reaches the threshold dictated by the scheme card, or if the inevitable mission card escapes on assignment. The last card in the villain deck is always the inevitable mission card that every mission deck has. When this card comes out, the players are on the clock. Every time a card would have to get drawn from the villain deck, the inevitable card moves 1 space to the left. If it leaves the on assignment row, the players lose. The inevitable card can never be gotten rid of. Some inevitable cards will have values on them, but when you complete them, you will only move it 1 space to the right, merely delaying the inevitable. If the players win the game and they are playing competitively, they will count up their victory points, and the player with the most points will win. Okay, so that is how you play Legendary James Bond 007, but before we sign off, let's quickly go over the various keywords and other things that you might come across in this set. Many cards will require you to gain wounds. If you do, you will take a wound from the deck and place it in your discard pile. These are mainly here just to clog up your deck. When a wound is in your hand, you can choose not to recruit or attack and instead get rid of all the wounds in your hand. Okay, now let's get into some keywords. Loyalty to the mission cards always have an X in their text. This X is equal to the highest danger level among missions in your victory pile. Cards with 00 status will trigger at the end of your turn if you defeated a villain or mastermind on that turn. Cards with the keyword chase will always move 1 space whenever a card is drawn from the villain deck, regardless of the card, and if there is a card in front of them, they will push that card along with them. The high speed chase keyword works the same way, except for it moves 2 spaces. If a card has persist, when it would escape, it stays there, and the card pushing it escapes instead. A card with flying will go to the first open space on assignment instead of entering the first space and pushing cards over. When a card with squeeze enters on assignment, KO the leftmost and rightmost cards in Q branch. Those 2 spaces will not refill until the card with the squeeze keyword leaves play. The last keyword is poker hands. Some villains require you to have specific poker hands to fight them. To do this, you will choose up to 2 cards in your hand or play area worth 1 or more, and you will use those along with the cards in Q branch to make poker hands. You will be using the cost of the cards to make these. If 2 cards have the same cost, you have a pair. If 3 have the same cost, you have a 3 of a kind. If you have 3, 4, 5, 6, you have a straight. If you have 5 cards all with the same class, you have a flush. And that is all the keywords in Legendary James Bond 007. Legendary James Bond is all about experiencing the movies that have captivated people for generations. Bond has been around for so long and there's so much to pull from. Getting to play through the movie and see it unfold is really something, but since you're controlling the heroes, you get to change the way things go down. And if Legendary James Bond seems like a game you'd enjoy, make sure to check out its page on BoardGameGeek to learn more. And until next time, I've been Nick Murphy. We're here with BoardGameGeek, and that is how you play Legendary James Bond 007. Have a great day.